The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah. The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah. The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah. The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, as-salatu was-salamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursalin, amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful, and imploring Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to shower His infinite blessings, peace and salutations upon the best of the creation, the last of the prophets, the leader of the messengers, the most praised one, the most kind one, the most generous one, and undoubtedly the most beautiful one, none other than our beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Also, I express my warm regards and salutations to every one of you as well, my honorable and respectable elders, dear brothers and sisters, lovable youngsters, students, professionals. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope and pray you all are doing good. May Allah bless you people with all goodness and bestow you all with a blissful life in this world and the hereafter as well. I warmly welcome you all to this series, The Prophetic Way, in the program Islam and Education. Well, today we are going to have a very important discussion, and it's really very imperative for every believer to know indeed. And the topic that we are going to discuss today is the significance of education in Islam. Well, as we all know, that education has been one of the cherished value of Islam since its inception, by serving as a beacon of light to guide the believers in every facet of their life. In fact, the first word that was being revealed upon our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and upon the entire mankind was Iqra itself, that is, read. So by this divine command, you can just imagine the importance, the significance, and the essence of knowledge in believers' life. And it wouldn't be exaggerating for me to say this, that the foundation of Islam has been laid down on education. Because without education, you cannot just practice Islam. If you deprive yourself from seeking knowledge, you deprive yourself from practicing Islam as well. Because it is absolutely impossible for a believer to practice Islam unless he has an appropriate knowledge about Islam. And I have one substantial reason to say this, that how do you deprive yourself from practicing Islam without education? I'll quote you a prophetic narration by which you yourself can comprehend actually that how important is education in Islam. And by that prophetic narration, you would also know how our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has urged and encouraged every one of us to seek at least the bare minimum knowledge of Islam, by which he or she may lead his or her religious affairs in a much appropriate and accurate manner. So I'll quote you that narration first, and then we can discuss upon how important it is for a believer to be educated in his religion. So this narration is actually by the authority of Hazrat Abu Huraira radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, be one amongst the four people. Who are these four people? Number one, he says, if you have good level of intelligence, if you have ample amount of resources available, if you have a good faculty of understanding, then try to be a scholar of knowledge. And at the second place, if you lack in some intelligence or if you see some scarcity in your resources, then at least try to be a student of knowledge. Try to pursue Islamic sciences, try to pursue Islamic subjects, and try to be in the company of the scholars of knowledge so that even you can learn some divine commandments from them. And at the third place, if you cannot be a scholar of knowledge, neither can you be a student of knowledge due to some circumstances, at least try to be a listener of these two. I mean, sit in the gatherings of these two people, learn from them, learn some divine commandments from them, try to imbibe that, try to inculcate that into yourself, and try to implement that in your life as well. So at the third place, if you cannot be a scholar of knowledge, if you cannot be a student of knowledge due to some reason, at least be a listener of these two. And lastly, in the worst circumstances, if you cannot be a scholar of knowledge, if you cannot be a student of knowledge, neither can you be a listener of these two, at least, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, at least be a lover of these two. That is, stay in the close relationship with these two people, be in their company, sit with them, so that even you can extract some goodness out of them. And commenting upon this prophetic narration, our jurists and the scholars of Islam say that, as mentioned by our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, be one amongst the four. Either be a scholar of knowledge, or be a student of knowledge, or be a listener of these two, or be a lover of these two. Be one amongst the four. Do not be the fifth one, or else you may perish. You know who is that fifth one is? The fifth person is no one but an ignorant person, a person who is just unknowledgeable and who is not educated in religious affairs and about Islam. So our scholars have expressed their fear and concern that you may lose your faith. That's how detrimental it is for a believer to be ignorant in his religion. So by this, you can just imagine how hazardous it is for a believer to be ignorant in his religion, because it is absolutely impossible for a believer to practice Islam unless he has an appropriate knowledge about Islam. And that's the reason our beloved Prophet ﷺ said, "Talabul ilmi faridatun ala kulli muslimin." It is a duty-bound, incumbent obligation upon every Muslim man and woman to seek knowledge. It has been made an obligation, it's not an optional. It has been made an compulsion upon every Muslim to seek knowledge. So just imagine how beautiful Islam religion is, that it wants to see every of its believer, every of its follower to be educated, literate, qualified, learned, and knowledgeable personality. It's just the beauty of Islam. And you know, one of the most fascinating and captivating thing about Islam, it's really going to delight you and it's going to overwhelm you because it's really very phenomenal. In Islam, there's nothing called as superiority. Like a person has no superiority over the other person based on any race or based on any form of discrimination like wealth, health, beauty, or community, status, position, profession, nothing. Like for example, if you are a rich person, if you are a millionaire or a billionaire, a rich person has no superiority over a poor person. A rich person has no superiority over a poor person based on his wealth. In the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the sight of Islam, a rich person and a poor person has the same rank and status. This is the beauty of Islam. Like for example, if you are a rich person, you are a millionaire or a billionaire, and you come from a rich background, you have no superiority over a poor person. A rich person has no superiority over a poor person based on his wealth. In the sight of Islam, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a rich person and a poor person holds the same rank and status. This is the beauty of Islam. Likewise, similarly, if you are a beautiful looking person, your face illuminates the world-class beauty. Even then, you have no superiority over an ugly person. In the sight of Islam, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a beautiful looking person and an ugly person holds the same rank and status. This is the beauty of Islam. Similarly, if you are coming from a dignified rich family, you have no superiority over a person coming from a low status family. In the sight of Islam, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person coming from a dignified rich family and a person coming from a low status family has the same rank and status. This is the beauty of Islam. But there is one person, even Islam has given superiority to that person. You know, who is that person to whom Islam has given the privilege to hold the superiority over the other person? A religion who has no concept of giving superiority to a person over the other person, even this religion has given a privilege for a person to hold the superiority to over the other person. And that person to whom Islam has given the privilege to hold the superiority over the other person is a knowledgeable and educated person. Yes, in the sight of Islam, a knowledgeable person has more superiority over the ignorant person. This has been stated in the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "O you beloved, ask them, are the knowledgeable people and the ignorant people the same?" No, they aren't the same. They aren't the same. So the most honorable, the most respectable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those people who are more knowledgeable. And this was actually manifested in the story of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. And you might have heard about this story from the scholars of knowledge. I'll just summarize it for you so that you can get a better idea of how knowledge is being given superiority over voluntary worship. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intended to make Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, He presented this opinion in front of the angels. And then the angels responded back, "Oh Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, are you going to make such a creation who is going to cause bloodshed and corruption on the face of this earth?" Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded back that, "Indeed, what I know, which you don't know." And this was the first phase of the conversation which ended. And then later on, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the clay of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam and he was completed and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought Hazrat Adam alayhi salam into life, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, scholars say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Hazrat Adam alayhi salam 700,000 languages and the names of all the creation in the universe. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presented Hazrat Adam alayhi salam in front of the angels, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the angels, "Can you tell me the names of all the creation in the universe?" The angels submitted their inability. The angels said, "Oh Ya Allah Azza wa Jal, we do not know except what you have taught us." They submitted their inability. Then the same question was being presented to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. Hazrat Adam alayhi salam did not only name the creation but also mention the functionalities of those creation. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the angels to prostrate to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, and the angels prostrated to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. Let me clarify here, this prostration was not the prostration of worship, because in Islam there are two types of prostration. One is the prostration of worship and the other is the prostration of honor and respect. So prostration of worship has been impermissible and forbidden since the time immemorial, since the inception, and it's going to remain the same till the end. But prostration of honor and respect was permissible in some nations of some messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like for example, Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam was prostrated by his brothers and his parents. Likewise, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was prostrated by the angels. So there are some messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in their nation prostration of honor and respect was permissible. But in this nation, the nation of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even prostration of honor and respect is impermissible and forbidden. So that prostration which angels did to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was the prostration of honor and respect. And this prostration was not just because he was the father of mankind, or he was the first prophet, or he belonged to the fraternity of prophethood. No, this prostration was by the knowledge that he possessed in him, which angels did not have. So this is the superiority given to the creation who had knowledge, whereas the angels had so many years of worship. You can just analyze, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam did not had any worship with him. He was just brought to life. Whereas comparatively, angels were worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala since hundreds and thousands of years. Even then, angels had to prostrate to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam just because of the knowledge that he possessed in him. So this is the superiority given to knowledgeable creation, and this is not only confined to prophets, but I'll tell you some virtues and excellence of ordinary people who have knowledge and who are the scholars of knowledge. Like for example, on the day of judgment, the highest rank, the loftiest rank will be given to the prophets. Like the fraternity of the prophethood will be at the zenith, will be at the prestigious point, and just below them will be their companions who accepted their message and who testified their prophethood. Just below them will be their companions, and just below their companions will be the scholars and the students of knowledge. Just imagine the rank and the status that above them will be only two stations, that is the fraternity of companionship and the fraternity of prophethood. No ordinary person can get a rank above them. There are narrations which says that parallel to them or a rank above to them will be martyrs who sacrifice their life in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but no ordinary person can get a rank above them. This is the rank and the status, the prestige, the position, knowledgeable people, scholars of knowledge and the seekers of knowledge will get. In fact, there are only three groups will be given the authority to intercede on the day of judgment. There are narrations that some more people will get, but in this narration there are three groups who will be given the authority to intercede on the day of judgment. The first group will be the group of prophets, the fraternity of prophethood. The second will be the group of martyrs, and the third will be the group of scholars. And Ala Hazrat Rahmatullahi Ta'ala says that martyrs will get to intercede for 50 people on the day of judgment. They will be given the authority to intercede for 50 people on the day of judgment. And Siddiqeen will be given the authority to intercede for 70 people on the day of judgment. And when it comes to the scholars of knowledge, it is being said that they will be given the authority to intercede for as many as people they want. This is the rank and the status. This is how they will be distinguished by others. In fact, I just read one narration which is really very amazing. I'll just share it with you. On the day of judgment, when everyone, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everyone will be given the glad tidings to enter the paradise. In them will be the scholars and the seekers of knowledge as well. When everyone will be rushing towards the paradise, the angels will stop the scholars and the seekers of knowledge in the midway, and they'll tell them that you cannot enter the paradise. The scholars and the seekers of knowledge will be shocked and staggered that why can't we enter the paradise? It's being Allah's grace and mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the glad tiding to enter the paradise, and we are rushing towards it. The angels will tell them that you will not enter the paradise alone. In fact, you can take any number of people you want along with you to enter the paradise. This is the rank and the status that the scholars and the seekers of knowledge will get, that they will be given the authority to enter the paradise along with any number of people they want to take along with them. So I just want to tell you here that please be in a close relationship with the scholars and the seekers of knowledge, because this is the virtue and excellence of the scholars and the seekers of knowledge, that even if you have helped them with a container of water to perform ablution, even that will be recalled on the day of judgment, and you will be rewarded, maybe by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by intercession, that you will enter the paradise with them by saying that I had helped you with a container of water to perform ablution. maybe that might reward you in the means of intercession as well. So this is the rank and the status of the seekers and the scholars of knowledge. So dear brothers and sisters, I urge every one of you as well, even when you get time, free time, or whenever you get time, try to invest your time in studying. Try to invest your time in reading books. Be habitual of reading books, at least half an hour a day or 1 hour a day. Try to read the commentaries of the Quran, try to read the prophetic narrations, and try to comprehend, try to ponder upon that thing, and try to read the life of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is going to give you immense mileage to lead your life in a righteous way. All right, I'll just tell you the superiority of a learned man over a worshipper, and it's being said by our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "A superiority of a learned man over a worshipper is like mine over the lowest amongst you." Just imagine the comparison our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that the rank and status that I hold and the rank and the status that the lowest amongst you have, is that comparable? It's out of our imagination. In the same way, the rank and the status of a learned man cannot be compared to a worshipper who is just ignorant in his religion. So that is the rank and the status given to a learned man, an educated personality in Islam. So I encourage every one of you to please read books, try to gain more and more knowledge so that even you can attain the superiority over other people. But yes, I just cautious you, beware of this thing, that don't acquire knowledge with an intention to gain the superiority over the other person. No. Your intention shouldn't be to dispute over foolish, or your intention shouldn't be to show off ostentation, or your intention shouldn't be to please people. Like you shouldn't be desirable to receive appreciation that I know everything and you can question me anything, I can answer anything. This shouldn't be your intention, because our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given a very bad ending to that person. I'll just read that narration for you so that even you can get an idea with what intention should you acquire knowledge. Beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if anyone seeks knowledge in order to dispute over foolish people, in order to show off, that is ostentation, or seek knowledge in order to attract or please people, then such a person on the day of judgment will be dragged by his face and will be thrust in the blazing fire of hell. This is how detrimental it is for a believer if he or she is seeking knowledge with ill intention. If your intention is to have pride and arrogance, then this is the means of destruction. So Imam Ghazali says very amazing thing, that the best outcome of knowledge is hidayah, that is guidance. So if your knowledge is not rectifying you, if your knowledge is not purifying your heart, if your knowledge is not protecting you from sins, from transgressions, immodesty, if your knowledge is not protecting you from evil activities, then you need to think over it. You need to ponder upon it. What is your intention behind that? So please have good intentions, like pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, safeguarding your iman, your faith, protecting yourself from evil activities, immodesty, transgressions, etc. Alright, so these were some virtues and excellence of seeking knowledge. We are just going through the significance of education in Islam, and we just took over some virtues and excellence. But in the next episode, inshallah, we'll try to cover two more narrations, which is very, attractive, that it will actually transform your mindset towards Islam and towards education, that how important it is for a believer to be educated in his religion. I'm going to tell you two narrations which is absolutely going to transform your mindset and perspective towards education and Islam. And also one logical example by which you can just analyze that how dangerous and how hazardous it is for a believer to be ignorant in his religion, that there might be a possibility perhaps based on his ignorance, he or she may sever his or her faith. So in the next episode, inshallah, I'm going to present those two narrations and one logical example. So till then, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, for your patience, your presence in watching this program. I hope it was useful, beneficial, and it was informative for you. Take care of yourself and your family. Remember us in your prayers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to live a life in accordance to the Quran and Sunnah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us steadfast on our religion, on our faith, and on the righteous path. So we shall meet in our next episode, inshallah. Till then, keep watching FGN channel and subscribe as well. Ameen bijahin Nabeel Amin. Sallu ala al-Habib. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad. Sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam.
The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah. The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah. The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah. The path of knowledge is the way to Jannah.